Well, Mark, welcome to the program, and thanks so much for joining us. And it's a bit fresh this morning, but you've been through what you describe as a Gold Coast summer in the south.
Yeah, well, if you haven't been wanting to grow grass or feed stock, it's been absolutely glorious down here. And with all due sensitivity to your viewers up north, I know it's been a rugged old time up there. We're certainly feeling for those guys, but yeah, we've had exactly the opposite problem. Relentless hot, dry weather.
I understand, though, was there a bit of snow over the last 24 hours, certainly in certain parts of the south, the deeper south?
Yeah, certainly through central Otago, and there has been certainly a major temperature drop. So, yeah, a bit of a warning sign that we're heading towards winter. And there's no room for complacency.
Was there a sort of a feeling in the south that farmers were feeling a bit ignored because of what was happening in the north, and that you had your own issues? I know they weren't nearly as severe, but nonetheless, you're coping with virtually drought conditions.
Yeah, well, I think some of that was by design a little bit. It didn't really feel right to put your head above the parapet and say, we're struggling down here a bit, when we could see what was happening up north, so we were kind of sensitive to that. But I guess there was a bit of suffering and silence going on in some areas that were heavily impacted by the dry. It essentially didn't rain about the 16th of December right through to, probably about 2 weeks ago was probably the first time we got any meaningful rain. So it was a significant dry summer on record in Balgloutha, dry summer on record in Dunedin and surrounding areas. So, a significant dry.
Well, the last couple of summers have been a bit similar, really, haven't they? Been very dry. Is this forcing farmers to possibly change their practices, their farming practices?
Yeah, well, as you say, we've had two drought declarations in the previous 2 summers, medium-scale adverse events. And, yeah, farmers, I know that La Nina weather pattern is certainly played out pretty consistently over these last 3 years, but there's no doubt that the patterns in general have been getting drier.
Yeah.
Consistent with what the climate scientists, I guess, have been warning us, and perhaps winter's a little milder. So, I think all farmers are, just thinking about how do we, feed deficits in different parts of the year now than what they used to be. So it's just a matter of, thinking about how those farming systems can evolve to reflect that.
And of course, you've had a bit of moisture in the last couple of weeks, you say. What are the soil moisture temp levels like, and is it too late to sort of cover your winter?
Look, it's still been, it's a significant moisture deficit. I mean, you don't make up, that amount of dry with a couple of good medium-sized rains, but it's certainly at surface level it's helped, and the feed has. The colour of the countryside certainly has changed, but we're going to need a lot more over the course of the balance of the autumn and the winter to recharge the aquifers and soil moisture.
I mean, have you got the feed supplies to cover the winter at this point?
Yes. Well, we had a really good spring, and there was a load of supplement made, which is put us in reasonably good stead, and crops got established quite well. So crops, although they've been impacted, will respond to the moisture now it's here. That said, as we discussed earlier, the snow on the mountains, and it could get quite cold quite quickly. So we still want a bit of a knife edge. We're coming from behind, and of course a lot of that supplementary feed that was made has actually been fed out. People feeding out months earlier than usual.
Now, I know the last couple of years you've had the dry, as we've already alluded, and the medium adverse events declaration was made. Didn't happen this year. Was that a bit surprising, even though in some cases I think the drought this year was worse than the others?
Yeah, it was a bit surprising. I mean, all the data was showing it was drier. The NIWA data showing it's drier, and for there not to be a drought declaration, it's just a bit, the model was quite confused. I mean, I've been on that committee for the last 3 years, and it's quite opaque as to how they draw the line. And I think it needs to be a lot more data driven. It needs to be I'd like to see a move to something more like the fire risk indicator, where it's actually, it's a bit of a moving, you're not out of drought one day and into drought the next. It's an evolving process. And I think if there was some sort of data-driven model that was a bit predictive as well, it would help farmers with the decision-making process, as opposed to, we don't necessarily need the government to tell us it's dry, but it would be quite handy to have a benchmark that we could make our decision-making across. So that's something I'd like to see evolve.
What does it mean to have that drought declared?
Well, I think the frustration was, we were getting quite a bit of inquiry from farmers saying, well, why haven't the government declared a drought? And, in any meaningful way, we just needed it to rain. So the government can't make that happen. We've got a lot of expectation on the government, but that's not one of them. But I think it's an acknowledgement, in farming, it's a sort of farmer wellbeing thing, that knowing that actually you are in a serious situation, but you're not in it by yourself, that there's other farmers and other businesses doing it tough too. And I think there's kind of almost a wellbeing part of it, and there is some support normally comes in behind the Rural Support Trust and that sort of thing to help deal with some of those issues. So that wasn't forthcoming this year, and I think that's the issue, the inconsistency of it. Why was it declared the previous 2 years but not this year when it was demonstrably dry?